Welcome everyone back to another episode of Let's Talk Happily Ever After. I hope everyone had a great Mother's Day. And Missy and I were just talking about how Mother's Day, as we get older, can mean such different things for so many different people. And so, regardless, we hope that you had some mother type figure in your life that you could celebrate with, or even just have a moment for yourself. Because for me, I am a dog mom, and I know Missy's a dog mom too. So, I think we all kind of did little things for ourselves for Mother's Day.
Yes, my little child is right next to me.
What did he get you?
He made sure to pee outside this week.
We will take that win any day.
Yes, Benny was a pretty good boy this week. So,
So Missy and I actually just really wanted to look at a movie that had a lot of Mother's Day theme related qualities in it. And so one movie that I suggested that Missy hadn't watched was Spanglish
hold
with
on, wait. I thought you hadn't seen it either.
I had not watched it in entirety. I just watched little clips now that I realized that the clips were from this movie. But I actually really like the movie, but I know Missy has different takes. So let's just get into what the plot is and who was in the movie because this is not. What is Adam Sandler's production?
I'm glad you said that because when I first saw this, I was like, okay, is this a Happy Gilmore production? And it was not a Happy Gilmore production.
Wait, is Adam Sandler's production company called Happy Gilmore? I always get mixed up.
No, Happy Madison. Sorry, Happy Madison, because it's Billy Madison and Happy Gilmore put together. It's Happy
Oh,
Madison.
okay, gotcha. Because I played golf, so I know that when you talk about Happy Gilmore, but yes, so it wasn't a Happy Madison production.
So, Spanglish was released on December 17th, 2004. It stars Adam Sandler, Taya Leone, which I apologize if I pronounced that wrong, Paz Vega, and Shelby Bruce. Here is the plot. Mexican immigrant and single mother Flor Moreno, Paz Vega, finds housekeeping work with Deborah, Taya Leone, and John Klansky, Adam Sandler, a well off couple with two children of their own. When Fleur admits that she can't handle the schedule because of her daughter, Christina, Shelby Bruce, Deborah decides they should move into the Klansky home. Cultures clash and tensions run high as Fleur and the Klanskys struggle to share space while raising their children on their own and on very different terms. This movie got a 54% on Rotten Tomatoes. I just want to start off by saying I did not hate this movie, but I did not love this movie. It was definitely a struggle for me to get through.
In what regards? What about the movie made it a struggle for you? Was it the certain characters, such as the who was married to Adam Sandler's character? I mean, what was a struggle for you?
I thought it was very slow.
Okay.
Very slow, and I couldn't get into it until towards the end. Like, I kept waiting for a shoe to drop, and it didn't drop. I also thought it was very, and maybe this was the point of the movie, very stereotypical, and it made me very uncomfortable. I felt so bad that this is how majority of society maybe treats certain people in these situations, and so maybe that's why I was so uncomfortable with watching it. It was very different seeing Adam Sandler not super funny.
Yes, yeah. No,
Like, this man is classic funny jokester prankster, and here he was, I didn't find him funny at all.
but I agree. I think people who watch this movie will be shocked to see Adam Sandler in a different light. I kind of thought it was refreshing. I thought it was good for me to see that Adam Sandler can play these different types of characters. I certainly liked how he and his daughter in the movie had this bond that couldn't be replicable with the daughter and the mom.
Yeah, I will reiterate. I loved that relationship and seeing him as a dad, especially knowing that he is now a dad to two girls. He is a very good father figure, and I love seeing that he was the stable parent for the daughter and the one who kept supporting her and promoting her, whereas the mother, you could tell, had this toxic relationship with her mother that clearly bled over to her relationship with her daughter. And I think maybe that's also why I might not have liked this movie so much because I, in the past, have had a difficult relationship with my mom. And so I think seeing this was very triggering for me and like, oh my God, does this happen to me? Is this how my relationship with my mom is and how everyone sees? And so I think maybe that's why I was a little too close to home at the same time. But I loved how in the end, her mom was there for her. And she was able to finally say to her mom, "Can I just be honest with you and tell you that you fucked me up?"
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, 1000%. And I think that the movie, we chose it for Mother's Day because there is Flora and her character, who's the mom from Mexico, who has such a different approach to being a mother. And when you bring up your relationship with your mother and how you kept kind of thinking about your relationship with your mother while watching this movie, I kept thinking about my mom and my relationship too. And it was more how Flor treated her daughter. So there were so
Mhm.
many scenes where I think the reason I enjoy this movie a little bit more was because I also get that mentality of being an immigrant and a kind of a product of that immigrant goes to America type of life and that story. And so I think anybody who watches this would be shocked to see that a lot of it was actually true. I mean, Missy and I, we met at boarding school, which is a very in and of itself stereotypical. There are a lot of tropes around boarding school and what that life entails. I think a lot of people think of it as Gossip Girl. And I know that my mom was also very afraid that if I went to boarding school and I'm literally lower, maybe mid, lower, upper, lower class in US economic standards. And so I know that my mom was also kind of worried that would I go there and fit in with people who, had nine houses on different, people who had literally apartments in Manhattan that were vacant most of the time because their family home was, and nothing wrong with that. But I know that my mom struggled with the fact that would I constantly compare myself.
Did you find that this was relatable for you? And I think you kind of just talked about that. Besides, obviously, they're coming from, I believe it was Mexico, you being Korean. So, do you think anyone who has immigrated or has immigration in their family or a very strong culture that's not American culture can maybe relate to this movie and see the clear divide? And do you think they would, how I said it made me, it irked me, and I felt like, oh my God, this is very stereotypical. I felt very uncomfortable by it. Did you feel uncomfortable by it? And do you think other people might feel uncomfortable by the clear divide of how we treat people who maybe aren't from this country?
100%. And I think it's very important to know that this movie, again, came out in 2004, which is still a very different time than where we live
A
today.
different time.
So
Yeah.
I'm just speaking as a kid who was also born in the late 1990s, who grew up in this kind of America. But I think it was very realistic in how you're always going to see a divide of somebody who's not from here versus someone who's from here. Not just in America, I think anywhere. There's a very clear distinction. And so I think a lot of the parts of the movie that were probably really accurate were how immigrants are going to tend to be in their own little neighborhoods wherever they go. And it makes it very clear that these people have made their own little community. I think there was a quote in the movie where Floor said she found her Mexico in LA or whatever. And that's
Yeah.
very true. So I think that it is, so that was very true. But I also think that because people make communities here, it's very easy. For instance, my grandma on my mom's side, she doesn't know that much English. And she's been here for, I don't know, I'm 28, so longer than 28 years. If you don't immerse yourself in the American culture and you don't really learn English, you can still very much do that and get by because you're going to have some other people who will communicate for you and do the things, which I think is so shocking.
I'm glad you mentioned language and communication because I don't know about you, but I am a huge subtitle girly. I watch everything with subtitles, even if I've seen it a million times. I love subtitles, so I feel like you pick up on things that you didn't get before, and I love like hearing the lines. And I was really upset that when I put the subtitles on, it didn't give me the English translation of what they were saying in Spanish.
Who didn't?
Watched it on Apple TV, or I rented it from Apple TV, and it didn't. So I felt like I was missing a huge part of the conversation, especially when Christina and Flor were talking. When she was translating for her, I got the English version, obviously, when she translated it. When there was just the two of them speaking in Spanish, I felt completely lost. I had the worst Spanish class experience in high school. So thank goodness empanadas are delicious. Otherwise, I don't think I'd be able to talk about anything Spanish.
Oh my gosh, empanadas are delicious. Oh,
Sorry, I
Okay.
just stereotyped hardcore.
Okay, we're gonna backtrack. So Mother's Day was a huge reason why I wanted to watch this film because again, the two dichotomies of the mother, but I also think that the grandma, honestly, I could have watched this movie just for the grandma.
I want the grandma to have her own talk show and I want to be on it.
So sweet. She wasn't super comical, you know what I mean? She was just the perfect amount of sweet grandma who understood the family for what they were and who they were.
I really noticed that she was a better grandma than she was a better mom. And I think that the relationship between her and her daughter.
Yes, you bring up that a great scene that I liked where she had an affair and she's now realizing that she's messed up everything between her and her husband, and then the grandma comes down and talks to her at the in the car. That was one of my favorite scenes because she was like, what was the great line that she said? But she said she says lately your low self-esteem is just your common sense. And that kind of hit for me. I said, "Oh, yeah, that's kind of clever."
Tracks. Yeah.
But yeah, I really like how you said that she was a better grandma than she was a mom, which I think would have ironically led to her daughter being a poor mom to her granddaughter, but she's a good grandmother to her granddaughter. So,
Yeah. I think Taya Leone, if that's how you pronounce her name, who played the mom, did such a great job of adding depth to her character by showing not telling all of the trauma that she had from her childhood from her mom, like that she was obsessed with running, that she was obsessed with being perfect and needing everything. Those are all common like symptoms or signs of certain type of parenting.
yeah.
And it also rubbed off and showed when she was trying to do that to her daughter by making sure she wore the right thing or she was the right size or she ate the right thing. Very controlling and obsessive.
Yes, and she played a really great villain kind of character. And I had a question for you off of her character because she's a very in other roles that I've seen her, she's very strong and kind of the protagonist, if you will. I mean, she was the main character in Madam Secretary, and yeah, so she's really usually the protagonist. So for her to play this kind of role, I had just a question for actors is how if you go from being the protagonist to playing these kinds of characters, I mean, how much of it is a talk with yourself as to really confidently playing these roles that probably will get a lot of hate or negative criticism?
I mean, I think the biggest one that comes to mind is Heath Ledger playing Heartthrob in 10 Things I Hate About You and then playing the Joker in The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
Obviously, I can't talk to or ask him about that. But I mean, it's such a dichotomy of two different characters and how do you prep and get into. I mean, even Christian Bale, I know he's a method actor, how he gets fully in depth into getting into character in all his different characters. So I think it's just a testament to the craft and not giving enough credit for investing not just physically but mentally into these roles.
Yeah, no, I agree. But I think there's something bigger in that you really have to be prepared to get that negative criticism because I still liked her character for who she was because the movie wouldn't be what it was without her being such a toxic
Neurotic.
person. Yeah, but to play that I think would be really hard.
One segment we always do is the meet cute moment, and I definitely want to talk about Adam Sandler's character John and Flora's meet cute moment. But on top of that, we never really found out how Deborah and John met, or did we? And I just wasn't paying attention because I was very out of this movie.
No, we don't know how Deborah and John met.
Because they are so polar opposites. I would love to know how these two people came together and met.
Yes, if I had to guess, it'd probably be that he was a chef and she probably was famous. Because I think in the movie, she basically has quit her full time job to be a full time at home mom. And that's the biggest struggle for her is now how can she be a full time mom?
Which I think a lot of, and I'm not a mom, but I assume a lot of moms maybe do struggle with who have gone from being fully working boss ass women to then transitioning into this full time mom caregiver role or even part time. It's a huge transition to go from a 9 to 5 to then a different kind of a 9 to 5.
Yeah. No, you you make me think of Ali Wong's comedic stint where she basically says women messed up. We messed it up for each other by saying, "Oh, we're going to go work in corporate America or whatever." And we should have just shut up and been stay-at-home moms and have the men pay for all of us, which is so funny. But I kind of agree with her. Anyways, but we don't know Deborah and John's meet cute. We do know Floor's.
Which I think it was very logical. They met in the kitchen, being introduced as the new housekeeper.
Yeah, but I think we also have to talk about the meet cute moment between the family and Floor, which I really like that scene by the pool where she's getting.
I'm laughing because I remember her running into the aunt running into the glass.
That was so realistic too.
So realistic. I mean, I remember when I was an intern, I worked in an office that had an all glass
Oh my gosh,
enclosure
that scene.
office space. And I remember my boss saying, we need to look up some way to get decals on the glass wall because someone's going to run into the glass. I'm like, I don't think anyone's going to run into the glass, let alone look at this movie. Look at what's it called? The movie with Cameron Diaz and Leslie Mann, where they get revenge on the guy.
Oh yeah, the other woman or something.
The other woman, he runs into the glass and the whole thing shatters. So clearly, this is a thing.
Or Kate Hudson, who you love in Running Point, she runs into her glass.
Yes, she did run into the glass. So clearly, this is an issue. And so I
She
just
just run
love,
into the window all the time. I think we have to talk about the meet cute moment between Floor and the family at the swimming pool.
yes, you can start.
Well, I really like that scene because it set up each person's characteristics really nicely. And I really, really, really started to like the daughter from that scene because she was fully immersed in the conversation until it came time to talk about money. And then she said, now it's my time to go. So she was just so buttoned up. I loved how she was so wise for her age.
Bernie, I think her name was, right?
Yeah.
Bernie was definitely wise beyond her years. I appreciated her a lot.
Yes, I really liked how she was just so good at really putting this movie together in some parts. But
I think this movie does a great job of showing generational, I don't want to say trauma, but generational motherhood and relationships and how certain things trickle down and how we develop and pass down certain traits, but overcome traits as well.
yeah, yeah. So that brings me to my question that I always ask you is I think I know what you're going to say for the thing that you would change the most about the movie, but I want to also ask you what you really, really liked and what your elevator pitch would be for somebody if you wanted them to watch this movie.
So, you know how you and I talked about rom coms that we don't think of that are underrated?
Mm-hmm.
I would say this is probably an underrated rom com.
Hmm. That's a good compliment.
And if you need something that's not too heavy, but funny and lighthearted, that's what I would give this rom.
Yes, as you say that, it makes me think about the beach scene where she's standing in the wind and Adam Sandler goes, "Would you just sit down?" because he's about to literally
Like lose it.
hit her or whatever. But it's a good mix of rom-com. I also think part of that I would add to the elevator pitch would be if you want a rom-com that has lots of characters in the rom-com who have bigger roles, equally good roles, I think that this is a good rom-com. And if you want to have a nostalgic going back to the 2000s LA kind of rom-com, we talk a lot about rom-coms in New York, but I realized that this could be bucketed into a rom-com you could watch around LA. I think it was giving a lot of LA vibes to me.
Something that I found super comical in the movie was I know when we reviewed Bridget Jones' Diary, you mentioned one of your favorite scenes was when she gets out of the convertible and she has convertible hair. And in this movie, Deborah's in the convertible with the realtor. And she's like, I'm not going to look sexy or beautiful with my hair back in the convertible. And then he all of a sudden like adjusts the windows perfectly. And she gets this perfect flow with her hair. And I was like, oh, I wonder if that actually works.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Although convertible hair, it's such a thing.
It is a thing. And now that summer's coming up, I feel like convertible hair is going to be the new trend.
So then one thing that you would change about the movie, would it be a specific character or kind of a bigger theme?
I would speed things up. I think it was a little slow. That and on that same note, love to know. We know what happens to Christina and Floor, but we don't know what happens to the Klanskys.
Yeah.
So I would have liked something I would have changed or maybe would have appreciated is we only get the perspective from Christina. She's the narrator of this story. She's writing this for her college essay. And she's what, 19, 18 at the time writing this? So she has a adolescent point of view on all of this. I would have loved to maybe have gotten Floor's perspective.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Fleur didn't get as much appreciation. I just don't think that Christina gave Fleur as much of the appreciation that Fleur deserved.
I think this movie, we talk a lot about rom-coms and romance and love, and I think this movie's theme was a love to family and mothers, not so much a kind of love. And I have to say, Floor did such a great Floor and Christina, especially being mother daughter, teenager, mom. There are so many things that moms have to sacrifice for their teenagers. I mean, in general, mothers are constantly sacrificing, and you see from the very beginning, Floor made so many sacrifices. She moved to another country. She got a job that she wasn't really, didn't really deserve, and could do better. But one of my favorite scenes is when they're arguing in the street and Christine's just going off on her and saying, "You're ruining my life. You're doing this to me. You're blah, blah, blah. Nobody gets a scholarship. And, I got a scholarship." And Fleur just takes it.
Yeah, yeah.
She's like, "I know that one day you'll thank me for this and you'll be a better person." And she just takes it. And I feel like that is such a quintessential moment in every mother-daughter teenage, like, I mean, I can even remember a moment with my mom where I'm like, "You're ruining my life," like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just it was such a good moment that I think they really did a great job reenacting, and I think every mother daughter can point to and say, "Yep, I remember that. I was there at one point."
I don't know. I think this movie also did a really good job at telling you that not every mother relationship's the same. There is that element, but at the same time, mothers aren't going to always be a floor. That was what we saw with Deborah. She was so mean to Bernie.
So mean, but the reality is there are some moms who are like that.
Yes, and I think that this movie did a really good job at showing how, I mean, because it's a rom-com, right? I mean, we can't get super deep into it, but I think it just did a really good job at showing you how sometimes you can still make the best of a situation, even if you don't have the best mom or whatever. Bernie, for example, she had a really great grandmother that she relied on, a great father that she relied on. But Bernie was, I think, who stole the show for me. I really liked her character. I think I liked her character the most.
So Iva spilled the popcorn.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. It's not really a spill the popcorn, but it's my kind of spill the popcorn. I did some research. This movie came out the same year that Adam Sandler did 50 First Dates. This movie came out in December, whereas 50 First Dates came out earlier this year. And I'm just remembering Adam Sandler in 50 First Dates, and his character and him in 50 First Dates and in this one are completely different. He looks so much younger in this one than he did in 50 First Dates.
Wait, but is 50 First Dates a Happy Madison production?
I don't know. I didn't look that far. I might spill the pop.
Okay, well, I have to look because he was Adam Sandler. I think still played an Adam Sandler type of role in 50 First Dates.
But that is more of my point. He was more Adam Sandler in 50 First Dates, and I almost feel like, to me, that's the pinnacle of Adam Sandler. Like, that's one of my favorite Adam Sandler movies is 50 First Dates. And to know that later on that year he came out with this flop is just such a disappointment to me.
Well, yes, 50 First Dates was produced by Columbia Pictures and Happy Madison Productions, whereas Spanglish,
Paula here with the
was only produced by Gracie Films and Columbia Pictures. So very different type of director.
Whereas I feel like 50 First Dates was a very true rom-com.
Yes, it's a classic.
Whereas I feel like Spanglish was more rom than com.
Yeah, like you said, it's Spanglish is definitely an underrated if you have watched all the rom-coms like Missy and I have and you still want a new movie. I know Missy, you said that it was a struggle to get through, and I definitely get it because you have to really kind of put yourself in a shoe of somebody who's probably not like yourself. Like Floor is not someone that we can all kind of relate to, especially because we're not, what are the chances that we're a mother, an immigrant who literally took the move, at least our generation. I will say though that this movie still did a really good job at giving you a different flavor of a rom-com than what we may be used to seeing in classics, which I also really liked because rom-com, it can have different flavors, and I think being able to celebrate all of those different flavors is why we love Let's Talk Happily Ever After. It's not always going to be the same type of storyline, and that's what I'm here for.
No, I love that. You're right. That's what this podcast is about, exploring all the different rom-coms and how they make us feel and the different relationships that they explore. And so I'm really happy that you made me watch this one. Again, willingly, probably not, but I'm happy that I did watch it because now I can say I feel like I've watched more of Adam Sandler's, whole work.
Portfolio. Okay, well, I want to end on a spill the popcorn actually. I think the reason how I knew it wasn't a Happy Madison production was because I think Adam Sandler sneaks in his real life wife into a lot of his movies. And she
And
was
he has a crew. He always has his crew in the movies, in his Happy Madison crew production.
yes, and his wife wasn't in this movie, so that's kind of how I knew, oh, maybe this is not something that Adam Sandler produced. And I love that. I love how his wife is game to be in every one of his movies.
Love that. It's so cute. Maybe they weren't together yet.
I know we're gonna have to
Oh,
look.
no. She was in 21st Dates.
Yeah, so maybe he just took on this role. I need to go look at interviews for maybe why he took on this.
Ooh, I wonder if he has a clause with I mean, I know he owns Happy Madison, but I wonder if like any movie that he produces and stars in that Happy Madison does, his wife has to be in it in some way.
I would love that.
I wonder if that's like a little clause.
Do you want to, speaking of Adam Sandler and all of his golf movies, do you want to tee us up for the next week episode, Missy?
Yeah, next week is our 10th episode. Yay! We have something very special next week. I don't want to reveal the rom-com, but I will say it has something to do with 10. Well, this is going to be such a great episode. I am so excited. Not that all of our other episodes haven't been great, but this one's going to come with a lot of passion and a lot of chat.
If you have any rom-coms that we haven't talked about yet, but would really like us to review or talk about, please let us know in our comment section on Instagram. We're also on Spotify and YouTube, so give us all your love.
Yep. All right. Thanks, folks.
Bye.